You're watching the Hostile Takeover podcast.
But I mean it from the bottom of my heart that you're really a hero for doing what you do. And I always say when I'm doing shows and shit's going sideways, I kind of joke around to kind of bring everybody up. It's don't worry, folks. We're not saving lives here. It's just a show. But what you're doing is actually saving lives. And I'm sure you have saved, multiple people's lives doing what you're doing. And it's from the bottom of my heart. I really think you're a hero.
Well, thank you. That's a big compliment to take in, and I don't take a compliment like that lightly. But it's also a difficult thing, when people say things like that to other people. It's also a crazy thing to digest.
Take it in, baby. I love you, dude.
But
I really
thank
do.
you.
And you're,
I love you too. Yeah.
it's Ace Piva. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me on here, Jakey.
It's great to see your face, man. It's been I think a year since I've seen you. We bumped into each other at
the Junos.
At the Junos last year. Yeah, you were with your boy you were working with there.
Yeah, DJ Shub.
DJ Shub. Yeah, that's right. He won a Juno last year, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. The dog.
What's up, Poochie?
They've been great all day.
As soon as you stop giving them attention.
Well, one sec.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
They heard something outside and then they go bonkers.
Yeah. No
so,
worries.
anyways, take two. Hey.
Yeah, take two. Here we go. DJ Shub won Juno last year, right?
Yeah, Indigenous Contemporary Artist of the Year, and then we were lucky enough to have been able to perform at the televised event with the Snotty Nose Reds kids, which was phenomenal. DJ Shub, if you don't know, is an Indigenous artist, and with that, we get the opportunity to, play, festivals and things like that, which is great, but also get to explore a lot of different reservations, going into a lot of non-traditional performance spaces that a lot of artists that I've toured with does not get the opportunity to do so. So as a white guy from Hamilton, I'm very lucky to have been able to be involved with an artist such as, because I get to experience a lot of unique situations, all good, and I definitely get to have experienced a new perspective on the Indigenous history of Canada. So it's a wild little community. Indigenous folks are fantastic, always welcoming, at least to me, and because I am traveling and working with a trusted Indigenous artist, I'm exposed to a lot of the inner workings of different communities around Canada. It's phenomenal.
That's really awesome. My buddy does well. Actually, a few of my friends, they all kind of share some duties, but they work with a tribe called Red. And they do some similar stuff. They go to more remote reservations and do shows there, which is super awesome. Getting to be able to tour to a small market like that, and give people who don't really get to see a big show is super awesome.
Yeah, actually, DJ Shub was an original member of Tribe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was I believe, the first producer that worked with him to help develop their sound,
Cool.
which is called powwow step, and Shub is considered the godfather of powwow step.
Right
So,
on.
but uh, but just like a lot of other artists out there, they have their band squabbles,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes it's better for certain people to move on. So
yeah,
Shub did that,
yeah,
and has continued developing powwow step and being able to cater or bring his music not just to different reservations, but to all sorts of cultures. Like we'll play like an East Indian festival for some reason, you know what I mean? And then we'll open up for Cypress Hill and do like the Canada Day stuff up in Ottawa, and then go up to a reserve where there's no cell reception.
yeah,
So it's really unique.
yeah.
It's cool.
That's got to be fun tour managing where there's no cell reception.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The last time we did that, I was trying to get a hold of the promoter, and the airport was literally like a big tin can
Yeah.
where like 20 people could stand in. And I go, hey, we need to get a hold of Jessica. They're like, oh, Jessica that works with the school, no problem. We'll post on the local Facebook group, and then she was down in 15 minutes. So,
Right on. Yeah, you got to find ways around it all. But
yeah,
yeah,
because they have like landline internet, you know what I mean,
yeah,
but with
yeah,
those cell service.
yeah,
So it was pretty funny just watching, be like, oh, go into the local community group. Out, she'll get the word that you're here. Don't worry. And then the community was like a 4-minute drive from the airport, right? So it's just like down the street. So
yeah,
we could have walked to our bed and breakfast place in about 10 minutes,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
it would remind us a lot.
when I was PMing at the Sony Center in Toronto, it's called something different now. It's like TO Live or something like that. It's under new management or whatever. But
Right.
they have this amazing archives department down in the basement, and like I saw like how they have all these documents and photos, and like they keep all of these like old like show advances from
No.
like way back in the day. There's like like I was reading one, like it was like a Johnny Cash one, and like just seeing the way that they used to like advance shows, with like just like letters, like handwritten letters back and forth, like saying like this is
Wow.
what we're doing. And like it just made me appreciate like coming up when I did so much, because like every promoter and venue and artist is just like an email or a phone call away, like, and
Yeah.
like we can share like tech documents back and forth like in seconds. But like yeah, when I get into
Yeah.
like
And we,
when you get into like the thick of things, like like I've never really done anything super remote that's like has like no infrastructure or little infrastructure. But like at least I can like like the worst is when like there's no internet, and like I have to like
right.
but then I just like hotspot my phone, and like it's fine. But
Well, that's the thing. No, 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 you can't because
yeah.
there's no cell reception. There's
Yeah.
nothing like it, you know. But when going into communities like that, one of the coolest things that I see is like I've noticed like kids are outside doing stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
my
Playing
stepkids, you
sports and
go,
running around.
yeah, they're playing, Nicky Nicky Nine Door, knocking on doors, running away,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I try to get my kids to go in the front yard, and it's like, why are you punishing us like this? Like,
Yeah, my nephews are
you
the
know,
same way. Like they like their video games and stuff. They'll go outside sometimes, but like when I was a kid, man, like my parents had to drag me into the house.
yeah, yeah, it's
You know,
same here.
no.
So, but I also remember trying to book my first tour when the internet was just a thing. Like maybe 10% of people had an email address,
Hmm.
right? So I remember like trying to book a show in Vancouver. So I'd call a venue there that I'd get the number from like the back of Exclaim magazine,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like how I used to do my tour routing when I was like 16, 17, 18 for my band was I figured that, oh, if a band like Thresh Hermit or Sloan is playing the same club that I play in Hamilton, like yes, they're drawing more people than me, but it's also the same club, and so they would advertise their tour in the back of Exclaim. I would look at their tour routing and the clubs, and then at 411
Yep.
all the numbers,
Yeah.
and then be like, okay, they're playing the Cobalt Room in Vancouver. Okay, cool. So I call there, and just learning that there's a 3-hour time zone difference there. So I call, I get a hold of a door person or a bartender, and it's like, yeah, the promoter's going to be in at around 12:30 tonight to pay out the bands. So I'm up until I stay at home, and I'm up until about 3:30, on Ontario time, for the person to answer the phone and be like, "Oh yeah, he decided not to come in tonight." You know?
Yeah,
Does he have an email address? No.
it was such a different time back then. Like, yeah, I remember like the first few shows I promoted. It was like, social media definitely wasn't a thing. And like it was just like
MySpace, maybe.
like I don't even think MySpace. No, I don't think MySpace was like maybe like MSN Messenger and that kind of shit was
Yeah,
around. But yeah,
yeah.
I don't even think MySpace was a thing back then. But yeah, like we'd just poster around like the music store, we'd poster around the video store, the record shop, the some restaurants and the clubs, and you know like you'd have to spend like 30-40 bucks on handouts and just hand them out at school and like passing little flyers all around. And yeah,
But
it's such a different
what,
time.
what one of my like secret skills because of that is being able to find the roll on on tape. Because as you're taping all the posters, it breaks, especially in the bitter cold,
Yeah,
and then you lose that friggin'
yeah,
end.
yeah,
That's invisible, the packing tape.
yeah.
So my secret skill is that I could,
Always find the end.
not always find the end
Yeah.
and
Do you leave yourself
not
like a
screw it up.
courtesy tab? Well, like after you do it, like that's my
Well,
secret.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, but
just
sometimes like in the cold
it
it would
gets
break and it
yeah.
would just like, and so like that became my special skill is finding that little.
Just add that to the list of skills.
Yeah, I, I put on a
Looks
pair of
great on a
rollerblades.
resume.
Yeah, yeah. Go for a factory job, a packing job,
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I could find that.
yeah. That would have
Yeah, I
been
put
great
on a
through
pair of
COVID when we couldn't do shows. You could head over to Amazon and get a job packing up boxes.
yeah, based on that one skill.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, so let's chat a bit more. Before I knew I was chatting with you today, so I had to represent Hamilton. So I got my Forgotten
yeah,
Rebels shirt on. I don't know if you can see it on the
no,
camera you're looking at, but
I thought I
I
noticed a
thought
little
I'd
bit about
represent
it.
Hamilton.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, and of course with Forgotten Rebels, you got to tilt your head to Teenage Head, and
Teenage Head, yeah,
Gord Lewis and all that stuff.
yeah.
So R.I.P. Gord.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Um, and uh, This Ain't Hollywood used to be a great club there, named after a
Oh
Forgotten
yeah,
Rebels song and
yeah,
album.
yeah,
And
yeah. Lou Molinaro over
Yeah,
there.
Lou.
So
And Lou's actually taken over management for the Rebels now from Donnie. They're like kind of sharing responsibilities now. But they're doing
oh,
some cool
get
work, man. They got they worked on getting their the rights to their music, so now they're all like on Spotify and everything, and they're kind of like
great.
caught up with the digital age and shit, so people can like stream them now and stuff, which is super cool.
Yeah, it'd be great to see them a little bit more active, or as active as they come. As
Yeah, I don't think they want to
you
be, you know.
right.
Like I think they've done their thing, and now they play the shows they want to play, and you know,
Yeah,
like Mickey's
I,
retired. Mickey's
I'm
retired, and he's just does the stuff he wants to do.
yeah, and I know Dan the drummer. I've known him for years and years and years and
Yeah,
years.
he's that
And
animal. I love him.
oh yeah, he's an animal.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he he's only a couple of years older than me, and he used to play in a band called Riot Star, and we used to play like the same Battle of the Bands and all that shit
yeah.
together when we were kids. So, but yeah, they're great bunch of guys, and
Oh shit, we lost you.
I don't know what happened there.
There we go. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like Dan from the Rebels. Like the last time we did The last time we did like a tour that wasn't just like a one, like we do a lot of one-offs, like we'll go
Right.
we'll just do some like Ontario stuff a lot of the time. But the last time we did
Yeah.
an actual tour, um, uh, Dan, like their van was full because they brought a couple of folks with them. So Dan rode with
Mhm.
Pete and I. So Pete's the audio engineer, and I take care of like all Donnie's stuff while the band's on the road and all the day to day kind of tour manager,
Mhm.
backline, merch shit. And
Right.
so we get to the storage space where all the gear is, and there was a couch there, so we're like, well, like we have to fit Dan in here, so we can sit on a road case, or we can redo the pack so we can fit this couch in. So we repacked all the gear so we could fit the couch in, and then we ratchet strapped the couch down, and so we're like Dan's just like rolling to Ottawa from Toronto and like sprawled out on a couch. It was great. Yeah, good group of guys. I love working with the Rebels. There's a lot of fun. I grew up listening to that kind of punk rock and everything, so
Right.
it's super fun to work with them. And my buddy Pete, who's worked with them forever, he's a good friend of mine, so it's always good to hang with him too. Your dog's
Right.
going at it again.
Yeah.
We're dog sitting too. We have a little pooch here, Koji, and he's
Oh,
like
nice.
little like this big puppy, super cute. So yeah, am I going to be seeing you at the Junos this year, or is Shub going to be at the Junos?
No plans as of yet.
Yeah.
We know a whole bunch of people who are nominated again, and but yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't put it. Well, he put out music, but not an album, right?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
you know how that
Yeah.
rolls. So
And it's in Edmonton too, so it's just kind of like tough to get to for like Toronto artists. Like if you're not like nominated, or you didn't like get an album out,
right,
it's like yeah.
yeah. I know our manager. His manager will be there.
Yeah.
Doing all that stuff, and
Yeah. Doing all that networking.
Yeah,
Great place to
so,
network. It's a really great
yeah.
network. Like it's like the one time a year that everybody from the industry in Canada is in the same place all at once. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be great to go there, but man,
Be great to see you.
you know how yeah.
We'll have to figure out
If I
another way
can,
to see each other.
for sure.
So
So
yeah, like we're just shooting the shit here about us. So like let's talk about Indie Week, man. Where we met. I think there's a lot of
yeah,
fun stuff in there to talk
yeah,
about. All the good, the bad, and the
yeah,
ugly.
yeah.
Laughing,
For
crying.
those listening, Jacob and I have known each other for many years. We met at this festival in Toronto called Indie Week. We were backline and production managers. The festival was great. It was exciting because as organized as it was also a little bit rogue in spots as well as any large festival is.
Yeah.
It was a festival that had 10 to 15 venues running at once.
Yeah.
Somewhere in
Like
along
200
the
bands.
200 bands, a lot of Canadians, some coming internationally.
Yeah, the last few years
And
they were getting a lot of international stuff. They actually
yeah,
they did they did a Brazil Indie Week and a European one, I believe, too. Like, and they were like
yeah,
swapping artists. They were bringing artists back and forth. So like Canadian artists would go to Brazil and UK and vice versa.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that was
And
really
then
cool that it grew into that. That was like one of the best things about it was like, these
yeah,
bands getting the chance to
yeah,
like go tour and have a little bit of a staple to get in.
yeah. And the guy Daryl Hers who put together the event itself. I played in a band with him years and
Did you and
20
Daryl
something
used to
years
play
ago.
in a band together? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So he
We'll have
had a
to look that
band,
up.
and then
I'm gonna find a picture of that and I'm gonna
oh
post it up right here.
oh yeah, no, we know it was a solo band, so we didn't do any like band photos, and if there is, I don't remember taking them.
Yeah.
But I slept on his couch in his van a fair bit of time,
Yeah.
and then as life happens. He got more involved in the industry side as
Hmm.
I got more involved into that tour management side of it. And then we, didn't see each other for a couple of years. And then it was just, fate brought us together. We bumped into each other. He's like, oh, I need an extra hand. So yeah. And through him, worked, you and I met.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, we ran the first mental health and recovery day at a music festival. And as far as we are aware, is the first one that may have taken place, like in North America, with that topic. And then afterwards, that topic definitely picked up and became quite popular amongst different music conferences and festivals. But as far as we realized, that was the first time that topic was brought into music space. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I don't know if like I don't go to every single music conference, but definitely when I met you, like people in the industry were kind of talking about things, but there was never any like I'd never seen like a conference where people were talking about like addictions or mental health, like as it pertains to the music industry. So you were like a
Mm.
you were like a pioneer, um, bringing all this stuff to the table and opening up all these conversations. And now I see it like it started seeing over the bridge everywhere. And
Yeah.
then that just grew and it was super awesome. But then I saw all these other things, pop up here and there. There was some like, what was it? What's that one where it's like a workouts and stuff for the road? I can't remember the name of it right now.
Oh,
But
two or fit.
fit on tour.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
with
Fit on
Jessica Lemon.
Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jessica Lemon and her partner there, they did that, and that was one of the cool things I saw. And yeah, man, you were like honestly a pioneer in it, man, and just like super impressive to watch you go through it all. And yeah, for those who
Yeah,
don't know Ace or haven't been following been at music conferences in the past few years, yeah, Ace has been leading the charge on all that. So
yeah.
what was like you had this background of addictions counseling and stuff before,
Mm.
and then you're a tour manager, production manager. Um, when did you think that these two things were a fit, and when did you like put pen to paper and start doing it?
Yeah, well, it came off like it started off of a few different experiences. First one, I was out with a prominent Canadian hip hop artist. For the sake of it, we'll call him Bob for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story. You know, so we were going out. He was in 2 or 3 years of recovery. He had put out a number of albums telling his story about recovery and sort of the challenges, but also the wins of his recovery. Uh, and I thought that was very admirable. However, we had a 6 week tour. About a week and a half, 2 weeks in, he had a relapse. We had made a whole bunch of uh, conditions or things that he didn't want on the tour bus. I don't want certain people on because they're triggers. Blah blah. Okay, cool. And this was my first time sort of dipping my toe into that field. But however, once he started to relapse, uh, uh, he didn't want to obey by the rules that he had set out. Management agent didn't really care so much about that. And as long as he made it to the stage each night and we got paid, that's all that mattered. It got very frustrating. We had meet and greets that we had scheduled to do before each of the performances, and then after he relapsed, he wants to do them after the performance, which is very difficult because all it's been organized with all these different promoters across Canada, the times and all that stuff, and the fans know what time. And then we get to the club and people are showing up 2 hours before doors open. Now they're being told at these things or after the show. And after the show, the promoters want to let their security go and all that. But now we have to organize who has these tickets, who doesn't, because generally we're doing it just in the middle of the show floor. They don't. These venues didn't have an extra meet and greet space for it. So now all these security people have to organize, 50 out of 800 people who have these meet and greet passes, and
Yeah.
he just wants to rush through them because he wants to get to the party. And it became very frustrating. We had a number of challenges throughout the tour. However, when the tour is done, I just wish I had a different knowledge, better been able to support this guy during his time of struggle in
Yeah.
order to try and keep him on his focus.
Yeah.
However, it was just too much for me at the time. We had eight or nine hip hop artists. Some were partying. Some came on specifically because they were in recovery as well. So it made their recovery journey difficult. So like I pondered upon this for quite a long time. Think what could I have done? I almost gave up touring. It was so heartbreaking and so difficult. Uh, in a number of ways. And then I was out with a little while after, about a year later. I was out with a rock group named Monster Truck, and we were opening up for Alice in Chains. So this is, after the reformation, after their original singer Lane Stanley died and passed away, so they got a replacement singer and all that. And Alice in Chains, they were all in recovery. It didn't matter if you just smoked weed or just had a couple beers; everything was gone from the camp, right? And their tour manager was an AA sponsor who had worked with the Grateful Dead, Cult, like Grateful Dead. Yes, we all know what they're known for, but over the last 10, 10 years of, you know, I don't, I mean, 10, 15 years that they were all in recovery. And them, along with Deadheads, would have these AA meetings. And this tour manager was involved in like uh, organizing and scheduling these AA meetings for the band and the Deadheads
Okay.
in a safe space. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world, man. Like, and however, because personally, uh, at the, you know, I've never had a substance use uh, issue. It's
Yeah.
nothing that I've ever struggled with.
Lucky, man.
I've never, yeah, I've never been a drinker. It's
Yeah.
never, it upsets my stomach. So I'm just like, it's, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I've had a shot. I'll have a shot a
Yeah.
year, and
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, it's Christmas time. There you go. You know what I mean? And that's cool or not, and it doesn't bother me either way. Uh, but yeah. So after that, it's sort of still thinking like, what could I do? Eventually, I decided to go back to school, become an addictions counselor, back to McMaster University, and I toned down my touring schedule a little bit. And I was working with a bunch of artists where it's like a lot of weekend stuff, like go down into the
Mm-hmm.
States, leave Friday, Thursday, Friday, come back Sunday, and whatever.
The weekend
So
warrior grind.
yeah, so we're doing that, and then I was volunteering so much at these shelters and at these different recovery programs. I eventually volunteered myself into a job uh, because like I was there Monday to Friday if I could, right? And my bosses were like, "You need to let other people volunteer." I'm like, "You need to hire me," like, right? So I eventually got hired by a couple programs working around Hamilton, working with a lot of guys who just got out of jail. Some of them were dealers, some of them were users, some of them, were on work probation stuff. And, that experience was invaluable. Like it was crazy how much I learned from working that programs, and it was all my idea to bring that knowledge back into the music community.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I started working with a couple artists who were in recovery just to maintain their own sobriety.
Yep.
Sometimes they've been in recovery for a couple of years. Sometimes they were new to it. Uh, and then I was started getting hit up by different management saying, "Hey, I have an artist who is in active addiction, and they're missing shows, and it's really affecting their careers. I don't know how much longer I could work with them if they don't sort of shape up because like they get booked for these shows. They
Mm-hmm.
cost everybody money. So if they were booked for 4 or 5 shows in a row, they show up to the first one but miss the rest because they stay in the first city and just keep the party going.
Yep.
Uh, so at that point, we'd work on getting together an intervention, family intervention, sussing out who part of their lives are supportive and not supportive and all that. And, we do an intervention, already have a place for them to go, a rehab center, and we put them in the center for, a month, 2 months, 3 months. And,
The
sorry,
pooches.
dog's barking again. And, and yeah, and then get them out and better, then I'd get on the road with them and could help them adjust life back to the road while being sober. And with that came a lot of mental health struggles that they were,
Yep.
using the different substances to manage
Yeah.
different traumas. So
Yeah.
we really started talking about that.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because like
So
when these people are in addictions, right? You think it's like, oh, this guy's like strung out on heroin, and he's fucking up his show. But then like as you start like peeling back all this trauma when you become sober, it's like, oh, this person also is like, has like severe trauma and mental health recovery to go through as well, and like the addictions part's just like this like shroud around everything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So through that, I wish I was able to help people. So then I, out of the blue, started up this Facebook group called Over the Bridge. I came up with the name from Under the Bridge from the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
So, there's a history about substance use in that song.
Yeah.
So we figured if we could help artists, get over
Yeah.
rather than go under, then maybe we could help them to a healthier path.
Yeah.
So that community grew up to about over 1,200 members of the music industry, where we had a lot of conversations about mental health and recovery. Uh, I ran that organization for 5 years, and over COVID, ran about 125 peer support groups twice a week. I don't know, 250 uh, of those groups, and yeah, just worked on those, and I'd get calls late at night from different crew people from North America who are having struggles about things, and then as the world got back to normal over the past year or so, I started a lot of crew people sort of experiencing, you know, more different difficulties because now they felt they were out of shape for the craft,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not performing, whether they be artists or maybe a line guy or an audio guy, not performing to the best of their ability because they're out of practice,
Mm-hmm.
and that causes a lot of stress, especially when you're working on these giant arena tours and
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, and then since people were home for so long, now they're not home again. During the pandemic, people were feeling a lot of like loss of identity, like who they are. If they're not on the road, they're not doing this.
Yep.
They have to develop new relationship skills. Uh, as I was chatting with someone earlier today, that when I was on the road a lot, 6 to 9 months a year, I become a professional at short-term relationships.
Yeah.
Friendships,
Yep.
you go through a hell of an experience with somebody for a couple months. It's like traveling, around North America or the globe, experiencing these one of a kind of experiences, then you don't see them again.
Yeah.
Which leads to, I think, I'll post, whether you want to call it performance or tour, post performance depression,
Yep.
and then yeah, because when you're on the road, all your dopamine and uh, you get this huge dopamine rush that doesn't go down until you get home,
Yep.
and then you sort of find yourself in this like constant mental space where you're just always like kind of like an engine running at top gear all the time.
Yep.
Lack of self care, lack of quality of sleep, lack of quality of food, all because you're trying to rush things because everything runs on time, to make sure everything runs on time, and so everything you do has everything in your life runs around this show, this moving circus. And then once you get home, you don't know what to do. You go through this performance drop or post tour drop, and often you don't have some sort of plan.
Yep.
What do I do?
Well,
Oh, since I've been
honestly, like,
drinking, I might as well go to the bar, tell stories, and drink, and
but
where
like
that
even
behavior is normalized.
I figured out back in like 2015, probably right before I met you. Um, I did a really big project, and it was with it was for the Pan Am Games, so it was this giant event that was like held over multiple cities. There were thousands of like staff members working on it. There were, you know, tens of thousands of people volunteering and working over the full thing. But the organizing committee was, maybe 1,000 people, maybe 2,000, like at games time, and like we did a bit of like, you know training and things. And one of the things was like kind of like some mental health stuff, which was really cool.
That's good here.
Yeah, it was like very minimal, but like one of the things they talked about was like the burnout from like, because it's like because they go through this a lot where they do these shows. It takes them like a year to plan and execute, and then they're done, right? And
Right.
so I'd known it for a while, and like I don't want to stray from you too much. I want to keep you going, but like I
I don't
just
know.
wanted to say like even with like a plan coming home, you get off of a tour, you're about to crash. You've been riding up high for 8 months to a year, and you get home and you have nothing to do. You have, you're tired, your brain's tired, your body's tired. Everybody at home wants to see you, but you have no energy to see them, or like even if you do see them, you're not present. There's like so much about this like crash, and like
Yeah.
even knowing that once I'm done here, I'm going to be going through something. It's still extremely difficult to deal with. Like knowing in your
Yeah.
mind that it's going to happen, and planning as best you can for it, but it's still like a huge struggle.
Yeah. During that crash, you got to process everything that's happening, and you do, like, I remember I'd get home and I would process by, going home to my parents and my sister and just like tell them every little minute detail. And after, like, the 20th tour, my parents like, oh, so it went good, right? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, right? And I'm just like, oh, you don't want to hear about my stories anymore. And it wasn't so much about me telling the stories. I didn't realize this until years later that that was a process of me like decompressing and processing the experience
Yeah.
and everything else. Like, I've learned that the people who care about me, yeah, they love me and they want to hear a couple of the highlights,
Yeah, of course.
and it's cool. But after a while, it's like, oh yeah, like so when are we going to experience this with you? Like, yeah, you can't. Like, it's fine if it's like a once in a lifetime trip to somewhere. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? But
yeah,
like
yeah,
after a while, it gets boring to everybody. It's like, oh, he's just on another story again.
yeah, yeah. Well, like
Yeah,
people just outside the industry don't really get what we do and the hours that we put in. Like a lot of people do. Like there's people who work hard and everything, and like tradespeople who work long hours and tedious jobs. Oil workers. I think oil workers have a similar life to show people too, because they work remote. They go
yeah,
out to like you know a work camp and work, and then they're there for 2 weeks, and then they come home for 4 days. And probably a lot of similar stuff, so people like that would kind of get it. But like people who just work a regular 9 to 5 job, it's like they really don't get like the amount that goes into each individual show, and then add that up over 50 dates on a tour, and
yeah,
you're run ragged by the time you get home. And it's hard to explain that to people, because you're like, oh, it's just hard, we were working long hours. And people are like, "Well, fuck, everyone works long hours." But it's like, yeah, but you get to go home at night, you get to cook your own food, you get to see your
yeah,
dog, you get to see your family. And
yeah.
it's a hard life. And there's a lot of people who struggle with addictions, mental health. And
Mm,
brother, like I can't, I say this to you all the time, and but like I mean it from the bottom of my heart, that like you're really a hero for doing what you do. And I always say, when I'm doing shows and like shit's going sideways, like I kind of joke around to kind of bring everybody up. It's like, don't worry, folks. Like we're not saving lives here. Like it's just a
mm,
show. But like what you're doing is actually saving lives. And I'm sure you have saved multiple people's lives doing what you're doing. And I just, it's from the bottom of my heart, I really think you're a hero.
well, thank you. That's a big compliment to take in, and like I don't take a compliment like that lightly, but it's also difficult to like when people say things like that to other people. It's also a crazy thing to like digest
Take it
as
in. Take it
well.
in, baby. I love you, dude. I
But
really
thank
do.
you.
And
I
you're,
love you too.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's, yeah, I've said it to you before, but like, it's good to, give your friends
yeah.
compliments and tell them how you feel. So,
Well, I
yeah, man,
appreciate that.
like you really are. And like, I see what you're doing, and, other people see what you're doing too. And, that your whole thing just took off, man. Like I remember like the first year, the first, like, when you first like organized over the bridge,
Mm.
like I think your first thing was Indie Week.
It
So
was Indie Week.
it was
Yeah.
Indie Week. Yeah. So I was still production managing, and you took that year off to do your over the bridge
Oh,
stuff.
what I actually,
Am
the
I
funny
am I
thing about
am I
Indie,
were you still working Indie Week
uh,
and doing the over the bridge stuff?
I was no. So for Over the Bridge was a thing. It was just kind of like a thought. Like I need to talk about this. So I had talked to Indie Week saying, the only way I'm going to work production this year is if I get my own panel to talk about mental health.
You strong armed Daryl
I,
into a
I,
partnership.
yeah,
That's
and he goes,
awesome.
yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah,
Like,
great.
I
Yeah,
don't know why
yeah.
you're strong
In
arm me,
Daryl
but
fashion, he's like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, sure.
yeah, no problem. Right? So, and then I get the schedule of it, and my thing isn't on. Like this mental health talk
Yeah.
isn't on what's going on, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm throwing my arms around it. He's like, dude, it was a printing mistake.
Oh shit.
So sorry. This was an old copy. The whole schedule's wrong.
Oh man.
Small festivals. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy has a thousand balls on the air. And someone within the organization sent off like the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so So then, at the night before at 12 o'clock, an email goes out saying, "Hey, there's a big, we're putting HPV in to talk about mental health and recovery into Indie Week schedule." I'm just like, all right, great. So there's like 2 or 3 conference rooms. Not like it was at this point. Indie Week was more focused on the live show.
Yeah.
And the conference. This was maybe the first or second year that the conference
Yeah,
part
they were
was
kind of
like
building that part of it up.
building it up. So then it just a happy happenstance or whatever was like, oh yeah, there was 3 rooms, but they only had one cord for computer laptop adapter or something. So there's supposed to be 3 talks going on, but the one that needed this cord started 15 minutes later than the
Mhm.
other one. It was a big one, like it was a big some sort of like it was a popular one.
Okay, yeah, like a
So,
lot of attendees and
so
stuff.
yeah, a lot of attendees. So they end up pushing that one back until they got this this cord available, right? And just saying, although I was working production, that those rooms were not my responsibility.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
wink, wink.
Especially like a festival like that. I don't remember that particular incident in particular, but like, man, I got so many calls on that when I was doing that festival. Like, and you can only be in like one of the 20 venues at once. So like, somebody
Yeah,
doesn't advance something properly, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're here. We're also from the UK, so we need like, you know, uh,
the transformer.
transformers and adapters," and you're like, like, thanks for giving me 20 minutes notice. We'll see what we can do. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so but yeah, go
So,
on.
so yeah. So it just kind of happened that all these people were down in the area for this one conference
Yeah,
panel that got pushed back. So my room ended up getting filled.
that's awesome. That's great.
So it worked.
Happy mistakes.
So it worked out great, and we turned it into like it really set the pace for how a lot of my stuff goes. Where instead of me just talking, I really like to get people invested in the conversation.
Yeah,
It turned into a kind of like a support group in a way. Like I wanted to know what people were feeling, some of the stressors artists, crew were experiencing, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is really good. And it turned out the feedback that the festival got was that was ended up being the most important panel of the conference, or
yeah,
the thing that people got the most out of. And it was, to my surprise, the welcome feedback, and it was with that, and I was just like, okay, maybe I should do something else. And then the Over the Bridge stuff came up a few months later, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah, just sort
Yeah,
of
man, it was
one step
great.
at
It
a
was
time.
great to see the just the whole evolution of it. That weekend at Indie Week. I remember you coming in. You had you had these like little roll up banners with like Over the Bridge on it, and I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
he's fucking taking this seriously. And then
Oh yeah. Well, that was the second year because we ended up getting a
and
whole day dedicated.
yeah, but like just like to see it grow, like, and like you were having all these conversations like all around the world, talking in all sorts of music conferences, and like just such an important conversations to have on the table, man. Like you really opened up a lot of people's eyes. Let's not only just the conferences and stuff and all the public speaking events you did. Um, I remember like a couple years ago when we were chatting, you guys were kind of getting into like research about like the uh, uh, post show uh, like
Yeah, post
crashes and
performance
stuff.
depression.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Uh, so,
yeah.
uh, how did you go from like addictions counseling now into like medical research? What brought that on?
Just because as I was talking to people, a lot of people kept talking about this weird feeling about after their shows, and 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 there was no real name for it. People just like sort of expressing the similar feeling all the time, and and it was just a topic that I figured that needed more coverage. And I was looking like, you know, at all these different industries like sports
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And so NFL, nope, they weren't covering it. Uh, and there was only I noticed there was people talking about it online. But
Yeah,
once
yeah,
again, it's more of a description.
yeah. You like see it in
People,
like we're all on all these Facebook groups and social media groups that are just like industry related, and like yeah, you
right?
saw the conversations kind of like peaking up,
Yeah,
and like, but like yeah,
and then eventually I seen an article online about some guy talking about it. He was a therapist from Utah, and I reached out to him like, hey, like you said some really cool things that I've been doing some research or wanting to get some research on. How did you get any information on it? And it was just like, oh, everything is anecdotal, like just saying I see things online, but there's no actual research done on it. So then I partnered with McMaster and a few other people to work on this project, and it's uh, research is definitely a difficult thing to get into. Took me a while to put together this project, and we've been sort of stunted because of financial difficulties, in trying to find reliable people to sort through the data.
yep,
So people say, "Yeah, I'll take it on," right? And then a month and a half later, like they drop out of it
yeah,
because of whatever. You know what I mean, so that's been an ongoing issue. But I was just thinking about this recently. Was like maybe a new study on it. Now that I have experience, I'm not a researcher,
yeah.
but when
You
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 figure
are
that,
you're a smart guy and you're thinking,
yeah, yeah, but like people go to school
proposing
for years,
hypothesis. Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, right? But
You're
to
being
get
humble.
together a proper, well, I put a lot of time into it.
Yeah,
I learned a lot of things. I talked to a lot of people who know what they're doing. To work with you know, a proper research team and all that.
hmm,
I'm always like, if no one's going to do it, then I'm going to find a way to do it myself. Sometimes, like, before any band makes it big, every artist has, their high school bands and everything else. So similar to this, it's like you got your projects that you just get your feet dipped into it. You learn a lot
yeah,
and you continue on. So as I continue to talk with artists about this, and I've talked to hundreds of artists,
hmm,
on arena levels
yeah,
to street performers.
yeah,
So post performance depression and post performance drop, and do they have an aftercare routine? And I've heard everything from, yes, I do yoga. I'm like, if you're able to do yoga after show, you're in a very fortunate position, because, to yeah, I take advantage of the free drink tickets because I didn't get paid anything. You know what I mean? So like people manage it in a
yeah,
number of ways, and
yeah,
but it's good to be able to have these conversations on kind of to talk about what feelings and emotions to that at least talk to them and prepare them for the emotions that they might feel over the next couple of days.
yeah,
As they go through these performance drops. So
yeah,
yeah, and that's a really important conversation to have.
for sure. For sure it is. Um, yeah, it's like you're my friend, and I'm gonna support you no matter what you do, and be proud of you no matter what you do. But like what you're doing is it's always been important to me. Just like one, I'm in the industry. Two, I've struggled with addictions myself, and three, my whole family has struggled with addictions. I've lost a brother to drugs. My father's been in AA and NA for like a long time. Like I'm 39 now, so he's probably got. I think he gets his 40-year chip this year. And um, so like I've always been around like addictions and recovery. So through my dad, I know a lot about it, and So to see you do it, I just found it super interesting. And like the first time I met you, you're like, yeah, I'm a tour manager and I do like mental health and recovery and I help artists. I thought it was so cool, man. From a personal standpoint, because like everybody in the industry goes through it. It's such a big thing in the music industry. A lot of the times, you're just kind of forced into it too, right? Because it's like you're the entertainment, you're the party, you bring the party, and people kind of just get sucked into that role sometimes, and drugs and alcohol don't help the situation, and a lot of people kind of fall onto that, and artists like road crew, and like even people who are like in house gigs and stuff, like it's not a very stable environment for the most part. It's like there's so yeah, man, I've always been interested in what you're doing. It's a huge conversation, um, and yeah, I just really appreciate what you do, man. And yeah, like when I was like I also tour, like when I'm a tour manager, like you mentioned someone before, we'll just call my guy Bob too. And I have two Bobs that like really, made me, you know, that like drew inspiration from you. The one I drew inspiration from you. The one was before I met you, but we'll go with the first one first. So same kind of story as you. Like short and skinny. He was just fucking up, right? He was missing the van. He was missing planes. He passed out on stage one night during the show. He'd be late to start shows. He'd cut shows early. He'd go on for half an hour and then go off instead of playing his full time. He'd, he'd one time he passed out in a bathroom, and he was locked in there, and like venue security had to like pick the door open because he was non-responsive.
Oh wow!
And I'm sitting here like trying to like, the band's done, the stage is packed up. I come back and like there's people partying in the dressing room. Where's Bob? And Bob is passed out in the bathroom, and there's people just carrying on like nothing's happening, and it's like, shit, this is serious, man. And like, so that kind of shit is crazy to deal with on the road, because like just like personally it's scary because like, oh my god, this person can fucking die right in front of me, and two, it's just absolutely like unprofessional to everyone involved. Like I'm apologizing to the venue now, I'm apologizing to the promoter, like when the time he passed out in the bathroom, like I'd been talking with the promoter, as you do, oh, how long are you going to be after the show? And he's like, oh, we'll just be an hour and stuff. So, like after the loadout, I came up, and he's passed out in the bathroom. So, we're trying to knock on the door. That probably took like a half an hour, and like completely unresponsive. And it was like a metal door, so it wasn't like an easy thing to like kind of like pick open. And so eventually I go to the promoter and I said, yo, Bob's in the bathroom. Like, we need you to get out. Or like, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to get out of here. And then so he comes up, he gets the door open, and like we kind of get Bob responsive, but he's like, he's not moving anywhere at this point. Like he's alive, but he's not moving anywhere. And now it's like 4 a.m, like 2-3 hours after we're supposed to be gone from the venue, and we got a flight to catch in the morning, so we're losing sleep. We're everything's shit. And like now the cleaning staff has come and gone, right? And like they're trying to shut the venue down, and I had to carry Bob to the fucking car, like over my shoulder, carry him to the car. And he missed the flight the next day. And
because no one's gonna allow him on a flight.
Like I have no fucking idea what I'm supposed to do, right? And like, so I get to the next venue, and the promoter had all of our hospitality set up in the dressing room, and I grabbed all the liquor. I kept some beer there because I know he would
Hmm.
need something, like because I knew
Yeah.
he would like go into some kind of like
Detox.
withdrawal if he didn't have something. And then after he missed his flight, and like I had like and like I didn't just get to the venue, all day I'm like rescheduling flights. I'm rescheduling ground transportation. Instead of like doing my job, I'm now like, you know, covering his
Mm.
ass. And like so I get to the venue, and like I just took all of the liquor, and when he got there he was so fucking pissed. He's like, "Where's the booze?" I'm like, "So like we're playing in a college campus, so like their license is a little weird. They couldn't get liquor, but they have beer. Sorry." And so like he kind of, did his thing, and he was pissed off and whatever. Um but yeah, and then like I that was the last that show that really got fucked up was the second last date on the tour, and then that show was the last. Um, and yeah, that's how it went for me, and that was like the addictions part of it, and then
Right, and then
go ahead.
then you send everybody home,
Yeah,
and not knowing how everybody's welfare is going to be. Like, is it going to be okay? Does like
yeah,
people
yeah, and I'm
support them? Yeah.
like I'm friends with management, right? Like I know them really
Mm.
well, and I work for some other artists under their management. So,
Hmm.
I have dinners with them. And we travel together, and so like even now to this day, like it's like he's such a fucking talented guy, and like nobody wants to work with him now. Like if he could have just gotten some help or wanted some help, or like he could have had such a different career, because like
Right.
unbelievably talented, unbelievably smart, just such a waste of potential, you know. And then my
Mm.
my second Bob, I can probably say his name, so I won't have to be as careful talking. But he suffers from clinical depression, and
Right.
I've been touring with him now. We just did a bunch of dates across Canada, and it's crazy to be there with him. And I drew a lot of inspiration from you, man. Like when like, and I was like mindful of some conversations that you and I have had, and just like how to treat him, like post show, and then after the show, because he's like riding these highs and lows. And before
Yeah.
like he's been doing this. He's kind of a legacy artist, right? So he's been doing this like a long damn time, and suffering all the way through it. He
Okay.
and there's nothing he can do. He's on his medication. He talks to a counselor, but like he has severe clinical depression, and it's always there. It's always on his shoulder, and
So
he
so so what sort of difference did you switch up,
So
or what did you
I
do
was just
differently?
I was just always mindful about how I would talk to him during the show. Like when you're in show mode, and you're just like you're very matter of fact and precise, and
Yeah.
you kind of don't like you're maybe not as personable as you would be if you were just like having a conversation with somebody, and like taking your time, and like reading them, but like when
Mm.
you're like running from back of house to front of house, and you're like you run past the dressing room, and you're like 5 minutes till show, and then like you got to talk with the stage manager to like cue the house lights, then you got to run back and grab them, like that whole
Yeah.
process is just like this like delicate dance, because I'm like, like he's throwing up in the bathroom, before every single performance, and he's been doing for 40
Anxiety,
years. Anxiety,
anxiety going into,
anxiety,
yeah.
clinical depression. So it's like it's very like, like I like, and then I try to not say things that will like worry him or like make things like make him go internal more. Like,
Mm,
sometimes I'll just say something to kind of maybe snap him out of it, like a distraction, but I don't get into the
mm,
whole, like, it's going to be okay. Like I don't do that. I just kind of
right.
like distract a little bit and then like maybe get his head out of there. And then he's able to, you know,
Yeah.
pull himself together a bit. But it's heartbreaking to see it, like, because
Yeah.
he's become a good friend, since then, and since we've been working together. And just like, people don't realize, man, because they see this guy, this performer. He's funny, he's having a good time, he's laughing, he goes out and meets the audience after every show. And he doesn't charge for meet and greets, he just loves his fans, he loves chatting with them. And like, people don't see it, people don't like, even though he's publicly spoken about this, um like on live
If you, if you,
television,
if you,
you know
if you don't see it, you don't see it, right? It's a
hmm
different. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a big
it's
difference.
so both addictions and mental health and recovery have been a big part of my career, and something I've had to deal with. And I'm sure a lot of other people have to deal with it, because it's just a big part of the industry. And yeah, man, it's
Yeah.
cool you're out there doing it, man.
Uh, doing the best I can.
Of course you are.
Oh, and great for you, brother. Way to take conversations that we've had and been able to implement it into your into Bob, and
Yeah,
uh, and it's great that you're able to recognize, adapt,
yeah,
and because of that, it sounds like you two have become good friends because of that. And
yeah,
not only is it a work relationship, but it's a genuine friendship
yeah,
where you know, and similar with myself. It's like artists who I have those tactics with. It's it's less of a work relationship and more of a genuine friendship.
yeah,
And it's just cool that you get to work together.
yeah. And it's kind of cool too, like when you do start having these conversations with people and you're open about it. um it's just, it it opens people up, and like, you say something and you're like to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, like I suffer from depression too. And then you're like, oh, okay, so now I know that, if something is off, you could be having a thing you're going through, and you kind of have just a better
Mm,
understanding of people. And like, it's such a taboo thing to talk about, and to say, you have, some kind of thing going on, like
mm,
I've recently, I haven't been tested, but it's something I want to do and I'm planning on doing, for ADHD. Because like
right.
you hear all these conversations about, that, and a lot of it pertained to my life. So I talked to my aunt when I saw her over the holidays, and I was like, you know, you're a, like a director at a children's, uh, not a school, but like a daycare, preschool daycare thing.
Okay.
So she, she's big into education and child development, and so she sees all these things all the time, and it's a field of study that she does. So we went through, like, like I was like, she basically did a test on me, and it was like unofficial, but like she's like, you have probably ADHD. So, like
Yeah.
now I've been able to like recognize that, and now I talk about it, and it just like it it opened up a lot of pathways for me, right? Because now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now I have to be mindful of this, and I have to be mindful of, like if I'm hyper focusing on something I shouldn't be, or it's the more you talk about it, the better it gets, and you know the more people do,
Well,
and the better
I, I,
people
I've
people get,
Yeah. And one thing is, once you recognize those sort of things in yourself, and you get to learn different self-management skills.
hmm
You keep your ears open for things like that. TikTok is a big thing, or YouTube Shorts, or whatever. You know, and not everyone shares the same. ADHD doesn't look the same
yeah, yeah,
to everybody.
hmm
It's on a massive spectrum.
yeah.
But once you're able to recognize, oh,
Well,
okay, that could be me.
same
Okay,
with everything. Same with all mental health
yeah,
and addictions,
yeah,
right? Yeah, it's all
yeah.
people.
Like me, I'm dyslexic. I know it's a learning thing and not a mental health thing.
hmm
But at the same time, it's like when I learned that I was dyslexic, I was like, oh, okay, now I can start looking for workarounds.
Yeah,
My spelling still sucks,
yeah,
and everything else. But at least I know. If someone points out, I'm like, yeah, I'm dyslexic.
yeah,
You get. I try my best, and I there's a lot of tools that I use to try and
yeah.
minimize those spelling mistakes and
hmm
things like that. Like, and here's an example: was I was looking at this itinerary that I got for some shows last week, and one of them we're playing in this. We're planning on doing 3 or 4 shows out in BC and like Vancouver, Victoria, and one is on a reserve. And the first 3 letters was like SASW, something, right? And and also in the news, I've been hearing that there's a lot of flights to Saskatchewan, like are getting canceled. Not just flights, but like routing to Saskatchewan. I'm like, hey, just let you know before we book a show, we might want to make sure that we leave that day open for a travel day if you expect us to go to Saskatchewan. And they're like, where do you see Saskatchewan on our itinerary? I'm like, no, oops, sorry, dyslexicness.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been reading that wrong for months. It wasn't a one-time thing. Like they're like, yeah, we're going to build all these
Yeah.
BC shows around the Saskatchewan show, and in my head, I'm like, what are these people doing? No, it's a reservation that it's just like I just need SASW, and I know
Oh
there's a
man.
W in Saskatchewan, and it just like
Yeah.
it just, and I'm like, oops, sorry about that. And they're like, haha, everyone just laughed it off because at
Yeah.
least it's something that I recognize. Had I not, then maybe my ego would have been disturbed, like, oh, what the heck, or,
Yeah.
or or whatever. But because I recognize that I have that, I'm dyslexic, that I'm just able to laugh at myself when
Yeah.
I make
Yeah.
mistakes, as opposed to getting all ego hurt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, it's totally like the other day, like somebody since started kind of doing this not for profit, I've been and like take kind of taking a break from the industry for a bit and refocusing. I I've been bartending, and one of the regulars at the bar, I was polishing some cutlery and stuff, and he was talking to me, and I was hyper focused, right? Like I was just like in there,
right.
and he just called me out on it, and then I was just like, yeah, that's one of my quirks, I make sure I'm looking, make
Have
sure I'm
you
like
not
if
heard a
I'm
word I say?
if I'm doing something, just make sure you like poke me or make sure we're looking in these eyes when you're talking to me, because if I'm not looking at you and I'm doing something, I can just tune you right out. And
Yeah,
I think
but it's
that
fun.
comes from like doing shows too, and like being up and like doing audio and trying to like
Yeah, hyper focus.
hear certain things. It's an advantage too sometimes, right? In those
I
kind of cases, but
was
also a
just going to say that.
disadvantage when you're focusing on it too much, and it's like I've said this before on the podcast, but like I'll like hyper focus on something for hours, and then I'll like I've made a rule for myself: if I'm like doing something for so long, I have to like step away from it and come back to it.
Right.
So I'll come back and I'm like, oh, that's fine, like what I was like obsessing over is it's not even an issue, but
Totally
like
fine. Yeah.
It was like that, like
Yeah,
that mic problem before when we were like sound checking for this. I was telling you about that little pop or
yeah.
crackle in my microphone that drives still to this day drives me insane. But like most people would never even
I can
say
hear
anything about it.
it.
Yeah, can you? Yeah, of course you can.
But it's so minute. But it's so minute.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
so it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, and it's just dumb quirks that I have.
So we've been talking, about quite a bit,
We've been talking
mental
for over
health
an hour already.
yeah, hour and a half, maybe even more at this point. But yeah, we've talked a lot about like different mental health experiences, touring experiences, working with different clients. Sort of a little bit of background about myself. Uh, and you and me at Indie Week. And just going back to that for a quick second, and
Sure, man.
yeah, how you and I just like spent so many hours in a van in an
Yeah,
alleyway,
yeah,
waiting for that next call, being like, "Oh, our base amp's broken. This is
yeah.
broken." You get to know each other pretty well in
We
those
did.
situations. So
Yeah, you mentioned it before. You build these strong bonds with people that you have only like really like what like we did what like 4 or 5 indie weeks together, and like maybe we
mhm,
weren't even like working together. I think I took 1 year off, and I like you did the over the bridge stuff the 1 year, so we weren't really
yeah,
as close. So like really, in reality, I've only known you for like 5 weeks, right?
right,
But
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're fucking family, dude. Like
Oh, one. You go through that
like
stuff.
we bumped into each other from time to time, and like
Yeah.
you took me to Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton that one time.
Oh yeah,
But shout out Granddad's Donuts from Hamilton,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like yeah, we developed such a great bond over that. You want to know my favorite Indie Week story though? This is like my favorite thing about Indie Week was going into the Long and McQuaid on Bloor Street with we'd have 2 cargo vans and a cube van, and we'd go in, and like literally the floor, if you've ever been into the Long and McQuaid's on Bloor, there's like that giant amp room, and they just have like amps like
Yeah.
stacked up to the ceiling, and we would literally empty that room. It was
Okay,
gone.
yeah.
Like there was maybe like like some little boutique amps left that like we're never gonna use, but like every Marshall stack, every Mesa stack, every Fender Tweed Reverb Vox AC 1530, like gone. And like
Yeah.
we'd leave the store, and like you'd see like all like the imprints of where all the amps used to be, and it was probably the only time in the year where they could like vacuum the
Dude,
store all at once. It was just like completely
oh,
empty.
yeah, that's what it's crazy. I've done a similar gig for Canadian Music Week
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a number
same,
of years,
same, same, same. Yeah,
Eh,
yeah.
but they have, I think close to 30 venues on that
Mm-hmm.
one,
Mm-hmm.
between 28 and 32. So we get everything shipped into the Burlington location.
Yep.
They have a warehouse and be like full, and then you just empty it up and empty it out, organizing it venue by vehicle, have an outline of a plan. So okay, you're going to hit all these, and here's the times, and
Yeah.
and then the loadouts are always crazy because now you're trying to load out gear at, hey, we got to do 15 venues between
Two
one
and
o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, and you got drunk people going, "I'll help you, man." Trying to
yeah,
avoid getting tickets because you're double parking.
yeah.
Really, you need three people in those vans, but you can only fit two
Yeah,
because
yeah, and you need
yeah,
5 more vans, and you need you
yeah,
need more
yeah,
hours. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
and everything.
those multi-band, multi-venue festivals are insane. I had kind of similar like um coming from like the sports world a little bit, like in doing like the ceremonies and stuff for like
Mm,
Pan Am Games and the Asian Games and all that stuff.
right.
It's like on the organizing committee, you're doing all this like kind of like games wide planning, right? Where especially when I was doing logistics, like we had like, after the games are over, it's like you're loading out from like, you know, however many venues there are, and in different cities sometimes, because like
Yeah.
when I did Pan Am in Toronto, like my one buddy, he was loading out in St. Catharines doing all the rowing stuff, and I was doing a changeover from opening of the Parapan ceremonies to the closing.
Okay.
And then there's like, if it went up as far north as like some of like the ski hill resorts up in like Collingwood area, so like
Okay. Yeah.
you're doing logistics from like, you know basically all around southern Ontario.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The kind of planning and like Indie Week was like, we had like 8 months of planning. That was my full-time job, both of them, the Asian Games and the Paralympic Games. That was my job for like
Mm.
8 months to a year, doing those like, 2 to 4 shows for one and the other. What like
Right.
with
Right.
with Indie Week, what we had like 40 hours of pre-pro on that. Like, I think
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
I think I typically would, and like it was more, but like I would only bill Daryl for like, the 40 hours, because it's a cool
Right.
cool thing, and like, I know it's a tight budget, and but yeah, like literally, like we'd have like maybe 40 hours of pre-production to
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
it plan
Yeah.
it all.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
great times, man.
Communicate with all the artists, and yeah. 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 Anyways, it's
Yeah.
it's always a bit of a gong
Yeah,
show, but that's
because
what
you
makes
have
it
to, yeah,
exciting.
and with that we relied so much on just like the mass communication. Like there was never any like really one-on-one advance with bands. So it'd be like,
Right.
like they would just send out like a pile of mass communication, and like most bands like aren't going to read like 50 pages, and they don't have tour managers at the indie level, and they don't have, maybe they do, but like most likely not, or management, and like, so like
Yeah.
that like
They don't know.
when you're doing a show, that you don't get that like one-on-one like discourse. So there's just like
Yeah.
all those
Yeah.
little things pop up, like the transistor, or the transformers, and like
Yeah, you go, hey, what? Can you send me a stage plot, input list, and
yeah.
backline list? And they're like, what is any of those?
Yeah, those fun times, man. It was cool to meet you there though, because like when I did it, like before I met you, I was doing some we were doing some pre-production work. We didn't really know each other, but like I
Right.
got the idea. You'd known what you were doing, right? Just the way you talked. But like, man,
Mhm.
if you weren't there, I don't know what I would have done, man. Like,
Yeah,
because like they
and
rely
same
so
with you,
heavily
yeah.
on like like young kids and volunteers, so
Volunteers,
it was awesome to have like a fucking like veteran on it, 'cause
someone who knows
you were
what's
my
up. Yeah.
saving grace so many times.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Oh, so, but hey, I know we've had a great conversation. I got a couple dogs who are
Yeah, man,
starting going crazy.
I can hear.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries, dude.
So I don't know what's
Well, this was a lot of fun. I'm so glad you came on, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you want to yeah, let's just call it, man. Great. Ace Piva.
Yeah.
Um I love you, man.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having me
much for
here.
having me, and we'll chat more, man. Like, I'd love to
Yeah.
talk more
You,
about what
you
we're
know
doing,
what?
because I think we're kind of going the same way.
Yeah, I love to. I'm just going to pitch this out here. I know I've seen a couple of the other guests who've been on here, and you've told me about some of the other ones you've done. It'd be great to have maybe like just a group conversation between everybody, whether it's about mental health
For
or
sure,
touring
man.
or
Yeah,
whatever,
for sure.
just so it's a
Dude,
larger group.
that's what the Discord is for, man.
Mm.
Like I like, as it grows, I want to have like, panels and discussions and all sorts of stuff on there, if you have any suggestions
Beautiful.
for me on the Discord, man, like let me know,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
like I'd love to, like, have something, and you could mod your own channel on it or whatever, just for whatever
Right.
you want to do, man. I want to,
Cool.
you're my brother, man. We'll do whatever.
I love it.
I'll work with you any day of the week, man. No matter where it
Of
is.
course.
No matter
All
how
right.
small
Well,
the van.
yeah.
All right, I'll let you
I
go,
love
dude. I
it.
know you got dogs barking. I love you lots, man. Thanks again.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. All right. Cheers.
Peace.
You're watching the Hostile Takeover podcast.